Hello backyard vegetable gardeners, welcome to the Backyard Vegetable Gardening channel. Today is Friday, March the 7th, 2025, and I sure hope you're having a great day. Well guys, there's not a whole lot going on in my garden right now. We still got a few more weeks before we can get things good and started, but I have been thinking about starting a medicinal herb garden for the last couple years, and we finally started buying some stuff to put out there. Today's video I'm going to share with you the 16 herbs that we decided to plant in our garden, and hopefully if you're like me and you've been wanting a medicinal herb garden, maybe you get some ideas. So if that's what you came here for, stick around. Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt your video, but while I was editing I realized I had some slight audio issues with the microphone being up under my vest. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Hope you enjoy the video. And before we begin, just for reference, I live in the northwestern foothills of North Carolina. Our plant hardiness zone is zone 7B. If you're interested in growing any of these plants, I strongly suggest that you do the research to find out whether that you can grow them in your area. And I also especially recommend that you research whether they pose an ecological threat to your area. Many of these plants, if left out of hand, can get out of control really quickly. So please take those as precautions. Also, I'm not an herbalist and I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving medical advice. I am sharing with you the herbs that we plan on using in our medicinal garden. Herbs can be dangerous. They're not healthy for everybody and they can hurt you, especially if you ingest them and you're allergic to them, or maybe you take them in too strong of a dosage, or maybe they were never intended to be taken internally. So please, if you're following along with this video, that's out of the way. I'm just sharing with you what we've decided to put in our garden for our use. You pick what you want, but please do the research, be safe about it. So for all you guys who just wanting me to get to the point and give you a list, I'm going to give you a list. For you guys who want to stick around and hear more about the plants and why we decided to use them, that'll come next. The lineup is chamomile, catnip, lavender, oregano, basil, dill, lemon balm, bee balm, valerian, white yarrow, stevia, sage, calendula, nasturtium, lemongrass, and paracress. There's a list, folks. So now, zipping down this list here, we're going to get to it. And guys, please forgive me. I've changed the set around, I've adjusted the lighting and the camera settings, and I've repositioned myself on the camera. Hopefully that when I pop these cards up over here, they'll be good for you. For you guys that stuck around, I'm going to do my best to make this short and sweet. I've got a little paper in front of me here. The reason for the paper is I'm new to this. I've done research just as much as I can, but as many of you may already know, when you get into dealing with herbs, there is so much information available. It's hard to know what's right, what's wrong, what's safe, what's effective, what's unsafe. So I tried to make a short little list here with bulleted items that I can share with you. So guys, please overlook the list, but I can't help it. First herb we're going to talk about that we're putting in the herb garden this year is chamomile. And of course, everybody knows chamomile is good for calming, especially in a tea. That's what we're going to grow it for. We've been growing it for 2 years now. Last year, we just wanted to see how well it would do. Did good. And we've got some more out there now. Chamomile is good at easing anxiety with a bedtime tea, soothing upset stomachs after a big meal, and reducing inflammation in skin salves. You want it to be stress-free. It's an annual, grows 1 to 2 foot tall, and blooms in 60 to 65 days. It self-seeds, so it's easy to keep going. And as I've already mentioned, we're going to grow it for the teas. There's a lot of other uses for it. I'm going to stick to my notes today rather than ramble on. Second plant we chose to be in our medicinal herb garden is catnip. And no, folks, catnip's not just for cats. My wife used it in a drink for one of the babies. It helped her with her colic. My note says it relieves headache in a warm tea, calms restless sleep, and it eases menstrual cramps. It's a perennial, can grow 2 to 3 feet in full sun, does well in part shade. I know that from experience. And it matures in 60 to 70 days and it's low fuss. Now I will point out that many of these plants, this one too, is related to the mint family. so you do want to be careful. It will get out of hand. We grow ours in containers. We have grown catnip last year in the garden just to see what it would do. We experimented with a few of these, but this is the year that we're actually going to put some thought into growing an actual garden and not just a few pots. Third plant is lavender, and guys, this is funny. I hated lavender. All the female products that my girls and my wife bought that had lavender, you know, like the hair products and the skin products, the soap, that kind of thing. I hated the smell of that, but I'm telling you, real lavender smells good. Even the dirt smells good. And my initial idea was not a medicinal purpose, but it was to line our front walk to replace the monkey grass. And I still might do that if I propagate enough of it. But lavender is good for relaxation. Soothes headaches in a sachet, pill sachet, calms burns with infused oil, and eases insomnia with warm tea. It's a perennial plant, grows 1 to 3 foot tall in full sun, and it needs dry soil. I learned that from experience too. The first time I grew lavender, I killed it by overwatering it. So don't do that. And it flowers in 90 to 100 days. Fourth herb we're going to grow in our medicinal herb garden is oregano. And you might be saying, wow, that's weird. Well, oregano oil is a very strong medicinal agent, and you got to be careful with it. I do know that. It's used for fighting colds, killing bacteria in a wound, and easing muscle pain in a bath soak. It's a perennial, spreads 1 to 2 feet in full sun, and it can be ready to harvest in 60 to 90 days. And we've grown oregano for, well, probably before we actually got into gardening. We grew some, kept it in the house. We had a kitchen garden that was actually inside the kitchen, did really good. The fifth herb we're going to grow is basil. And of course, we've grown basil for, well, the same number of years we've been growing a garden. Everybody grows tomatoes, grows basil. That's just the way it goes, ain't it? But basil is more than just for presto. It can settle upset stomach with tea, reduces stress with its aroma, and it soothes insect bites with crushed leaves. It's an annual plant, grows 1 to 2 feet in full sun, matures in 60 to 70 days, and if you will pinch it, it'll bush out. You'll get more basil, and it's one of the things that we grew last year. We grew several varieties of basil. Wound up being one of our dearest friends' favorite things, because I'd have so much basil I couldn't use it all, and I would send her home with bags and bags of that. And actually, she got some in out of that deal too. So the sixth herb that we're going to put in our medicinal herb garden this year is dill. And this one surprised me. I wasn't going to include it in the medicinal list because we grow it for an additive in our salads. Man, it makes a salad. My wife put it in a salad year before last just to see if I liked it, and man alive, did I like it. We're always going to grow some dill. Dill is a digestive hero. Calms colic in babies with a seed tea, reduces gas after meals, and eases hiccups with the chew. It's an annual plant, grows 2 to 4 foot tall in sun, and that depends on the variety. It's ready to harvest in 60 to 70 days, and it might reseed. Well, it's been our experience that it does reseed. If you let it mature and go to flower, and it drops those seeds, it's going to reseed, so be careful where you plant it. If you live in an area like where I live, where it don't get too terribly cold, we get 1 to 2 weeks a year of extreme cold. Well, not extreme, but 10 degrees or lower, and it still comes back, so it does good. And the seventh herb that we're going to put in our medicinal herb garden in 2025 is lemon balm. And lemon balm was one of those that I grew just because I like the smell of it. Go rub the leaves and smell my hands. It smelled pretty good. Lemon balm is a mood lifter. It calms anxiety with tea, treats cold sores with a salve, and eases headaches with a compress. Now, guys, a lot of these say they're good for headaches. I don't know if they are or not. My wife suffers from severe migraines, and we haven't found nothing that helps with those things. And one of the reasons that I wanted this garden so strongly was to see if I could help her with those headaches. It's a perennial plant, grows 1 to 2 feet in full sun, can tolerate shade, matures in 60 to 70 days. But again, It's closely related to the mint family, so be real careful about it spreading. Keep it in a container. I know that for a fact. We're very thankful we've not had none of it get out on us, but I've seen how it's tried to spread those roots outside of that container, and I watched it lean into another container and it started to root. We caught it, didn't disturb the other plant, but be careful with some of these. And the 8th herb that we're going to grow in our medicinal herb garden this year is bee balm. And this is one that I've heard some about. I have absolutely no experience with it, but it's a right pretty plant to start with. I know it's good to attract the pollinators. It says it soothes colds with a tea, treats minor cuts with a poultice, and it eases sore throats with a gargle. And one of the things that I found interesting as I was researching some of this stuff is how many of these herbs are good in a mouthwash or a gargle. It just astonished me. I had no idea. It's a perennial plant, grows 2 to 4 feet in full sun, can tolerate part shade, blooms in 90 to 120 days. The 9th herb on this list is one that I'm totally unfamiliar with, just heard of it, and I'm actually kind of excited and kind of scared to grow it, and that is Valerian. And what's got me excited about it is that it's supposedly a very strong sedative. I don't mean like a tranquilizer, but I mean, think about taking NyQuil to go to sleep when you're sick. That's what it's used for. You use the roots for that. But the thing is, depending on where you live, this plant can be highly invasive. In fact, when I was doing the research on the plant, I believe it was in Wisconsin, they strongly discourage growing this plant because it has escaped and taken over many of the woods and marshlands. So be careful about that. Make sure you take care of your plants, guys. This fights insomnia with root tea, calms nerves before big day, and eases muscle cramps with a tincture. It is a perennial, grows 3 to 5 feet in part shade, flowers in 90 to 100 days, and roots in year 2. So if you want to grow it, to use it to fight insomnia, then you need to grow it for at least 2 years. Do be careful with this stuff. It will get out on you. And herb number 10 that we're going to put in our herb garden is white yarrow, also known as Achillea. Says it's a first aid star. Says it stops bleeding with crushed leaves, reduces fever with a tea, and soothes rashes with a wash. And that is exactly why we got it. That's exactly why I'm interested in it, was for the fever reducing properties. It's a perennial plant, grows 1 to 3 feet in full sun, blooms in 90 to 100 days, and it says it's tough as nails. So basically, if you plant it, you're probably not going to get rid of it. I don't know. And the 11th herb we're going to add in the medicinal garden is Stevia. And this one is technically not really going to do us any good medicinal use except in prevention. Of course, you've heard of Stevia that you buy in the store, and there's lots of talk about it's not healthy, and it's not from everything I read. But natural stevia that you grind up and make the powder yourself is quite good for you. It's a sweetener, of course, and it's a sugar substitute. You know, there's nothing wrong with sugar. It's just the way we get sugar. This ultra-processed sugar is not good for us. It says it aids digestion with leaves, and of course manages blood sugar in small doses. And the reason for that is it's a natural sweetener. But if you are diabetic, you know better than I do. I'm not a diabetic, but you know that even eating fruits can hurt you if your sugar's too high. So do be careful if you're going to grow some stevia, but I'm excited about it. It's a tender perennial, which means it's going to die on me. I'm going to have to keep some and propagate it or buy more seeds next year. Grows 1 to 2 feet in full sun, matures in 90 to 100 days. And a lot of people will try to overwinter it. I don't know if I can do that. I would like to, but we'll find out this year. And herb number 12 that we're going to add to our medicinal garden this year is sage. Now, we've already got sage out there now, so technically I'm not adding this to the garden, but it is so large that it's staying right where it's at. And while I'm on that subject about staying where it's at, I have not planned out the actual location of hardly any of these plants. I'm actually thinking about making a new bed outside of the main garden area next to the house. I just don't know yet. I'm going to see how many of these things are deer tolerant before I do that. but sage is a throat saver. Use it for gargling, sore throats, boosting memory with tea, and reducing sweat in a rinse. And those last two things intrigued me greatly. There's been some research that suggests that sage can help improve memory loss, and I don't mean makes you forget more, but actually, I'm real careful to say this. It doesn't reverse memory loss, but it improves your cognitive ability. So I've been kind of excited about that. Most of us, if you're over 40, you're probably wishing that you had a little bit more upstairs, and I know I do. But the third one really got me. It says that this one would reduce sweat. And that is something that I know there's a lot of people, I sweat a lot, but I don't have a problem with it, like staining or showing through, but I know some people do. So sage might be something that you want to put in your garden. It's a perennial plant, grows 1 to 2 feet in full sun. It's ready in 75 to 90 days. And I'm telling you what, it spreads. We planted 2 plants up in the garden, in the little square foot garden. So it had 2 feet, and I'm telling you, it takes up more than 2 feet. It's a pretty big plant. And the 13th herb that we're going to put in the medicinal garden is one that we actually have grown ever since we started a full-fledged garden, and we grew it for pollinators. And it's Calendula. And what was kind of amusing about this was my wife had been buying Calendula from the herbal supplement store here local for some time, and she'd been making a salve out of it. I had no idea. I'd have been growing that stuff. It's really easy to grow. In fact, it will self-seed. And she makes this salve, and it's really good for skin irritations. Works extremely well for eczema. I know that firsthand. It's good for calming sunburn with an oil and reducing acne with a wash. It's an annual plant. Grows 1 to 2 feet tall in sun. Blooms 50 to 60 days. And I know mine grew much taller than 2 feet. I don't know, maybe I fed them too well, but they are beautiful. They are a very gummy flower, and it's one I would highly recommend even if you don't want a medicinal garden. If you just want to attract some pollinators, Calendula is a really good to attract those pollinators. And we're headed to the bottom of the list. Herb number 14 that we're going to add in our medicinal garden this year is Nasturtium. And I did not think that this was actually a medicinal plant. We have been growing this one again to attract pollinators, but also as a trap crop, really great to attract aphids and leaf miners. So we try to grow lots of Nasturtiums, and I did not know they had medicinal uses. I knew the entire plant was edible. If you're into that, if you like radishes, then you'll like Nasturtiums. They have a mild peppery flavor, really good in a salad. In fact, one of my grandbabies loves to eat it all by itself. You can eat the flower, you can eat the leaves, you can eat the stems, whatever you want. It says it's good for fighting colds with the leaf tea, treating UTIs with the tincture, and soothing sore throats with its petals. It's an annual plant, and it looks really funny when it dies. It looks almost slimy. It grows 1 to 3 foot in sun, blooms in 50 to 60 days, and all of our plants did get about 2 foot tall. But what you need to know about this thing is it will sprawl. Boy, I had some planted by some cowpeas one year, and that thing sprawled 6 or 7 feet. But they will reseed. So wherever you plant these, know next year you're having Nasturtiums unless you do a really good job cleaning up the soil or preventing those seed pods from hitting the ground. Herb number 15 of our medicinal garden is lemongrass. Again, I did not know this had any medicinal value. We had been growing it under our pergola right beside our seating area because it smelled wonderful. The little babies would stick their hand up there and rub it and get that oil going, and it smelled really good. But apparently lemongrass is good at easing cramps with the tea, repels bugs with the rub, and calming fevers with the compress. Now, I don't know if it repels bugs because we had plenty of mosquitoes over there. Maybe they don't like it if it's on you. I don't know. But we're going to grow it anyway because it's pretty to look at. It smells good. And if it can help with fevers and cramps, that would also be good. It's a tender perennial. I'm about to see whether mine survives my winter or not. We left them out there this year. Grows 3 to 5 feet in full sun, takes 120 days to mature. And our last herb that we're going to add to the garden this year is Paracress. I hope I'm saying that right. You might know it as the toothache plant. Some people call it the gumdrop plant. Its name implies exactly why we're getting it. I had an abscessed tooth 6 or 7 months ago, and man alive, thank the Lord for his mercy, but boy, my jaw swelled up, and I wish I'd have had something. And I praised the Lord. I prayed to him. I told him what kind of shape I was in, and I couldn't get to the dentist, and within just a few hours that abscess went away. But man, it was so big that my son was making fun of me. He told me I looked like a cartoon character. But this plant has a numbing effect in your entire mouth by chewing on its leaves. It says it boosts saliva for a dry mouth, and it's easing gum pain with the chew. So any kind of soreness you have in your mouth, this plant is good for it. In fact, I was watching the Hoss Tool channel, and Hoss was talking about how he enjoyed taking folks into the garden and giving them one of those leaves to see how they reacted when they put it in their mouth. So it's pretty good. It is an annual. It grows 1 to 2 feet in full sun, and it blooms in 60 to 75 days. And that's the 16 herbs that we're going to start out with in our medicinal herb garden. I'm curious if you're familiar with this, if you've got some experience growing a medicinal herb garden. I'd love to hear about it in the comments, guys. The comments have been a great blessing to me, and I'm sure many other folks. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your experience with growing these herbs, it would be great. If you're thinking about growing a medicinal herb garden, why don't you put down there in the comments what you've been thinking about growing, why you're interested in growing it. It'd sure be a blessing to me if it won't be a blessing to anybody else, because we're really serious about trying to stay away from all the pharmaceuticals that we can. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that I think it would be a good idea if we could have more home remedies like we used to back in the day. So guys, that was a video. I sure thank you for watching. If you learned something, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. It helps the channel significantly. If you like gardening and garden related content, I sure do hope you subscribe to the channel. And if you know some folks that are thinking about gardening or they like gardening, please share it with them on other social media. Till we see you again, I sure hope you're having a great day.